Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Home Expo Podcast. I am Tammie Hartman, your host, and today we are dedicating this episode to investors and developers. We are exploring how to electrify residences and move forward to a zero carbon future. Our guest today is Sean Armstrong, and he is the managing principal of Redwood Energy and a leading expert in building electrification. In over 3 decades, he has designed the retrofit and new construction of more than 25,000 all electric homes for disadvantaged populations and co authored numerous pocket guides to building electrification. He provides legal and technical support for building gas bans nationwide and has been recognized with awards such as the United Nations World Habitat Grand Prize. Wow, and induction into California's Clean Energy Hall of Fame. I didn't even know they had a Hall of Fame. Sean joins the podcast to share insights that align with investors and developers' interests. So, hi, Sean. Thank you and welcome to our podcast. Nice to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Tammie. Thank you.
Oh, I wanted to ask if you could share your journey on building the electrification and the founding of Redwood Energy. How did you get that started?
Okay, that's a it's a little bit of an awkward story. I thought I was going to be a high school science teacher. I was like, I'm going to teach the next generation how to do good building science, right? So that's what I studied. I did it in college, got my teaching credential, and didn't do a great job as a high school science teacher. Tried it in middle school, didn't like that very much either,
Mhm.
and realized that I probably shouldn't wait for the next generation to figure this stuff out. And went
Right.
and got a job at Danco Builders, the largest general contractor and developer in our region, as a project
Mhm.
manager, and applied all of the building science I'd learned and taught. You know, I'd installed solar already, had already put up a wind turbine, managed off-grid batteries, put an EV into service to make a concert go, like making that the
Wow.
battery power. I'd already done so many fun things with students on my own. So as a creative technical person, they put me in charge of the green building elements, and
Mhm.
this was good for them because
Okay.
in 2007, you might remember, the market started to crash. And by
Mhm.
2008, all of the affordable housing developments that had gotten funded had no value because the tax credits that they had been given to build
Mhm.
them, who is going to buy future tax burdens when you're about to go bankrupt?
Ugh.
So there was almost 3 years in which all this grant funded for the green building competitive scoring that we'd done,
Mhm.
it couldn't be funded. In 2011, I both got laid off and construction started.
Ugh.
So I became a consultant. I didn't want to move to the big city. I'm in a cool little college town called Arcata, where all the other greenie weenies live. This is a fantastic place if you want to be technical about solar and batteries and EVs and such.
Right.
All my friends.
Mhm.
So I got laid off, and so did my partner, Michael Winkler. He had been at the Shots Hydrogen Fuel Cell Lab up on campus. And so he's about 20 years older, but we were partners in activism, neighbors, all sorts of good things. And we decided we'd do
Mhm.
it together. And we started our nation's first consultancy just for all electric construction. Show
Wow.
people how to do that and zero net energy at the same time. And we focused just on apartment complexes, and particularly in affordable housing, because there's financial mechanisms there. As you invest in the tenants' energy efficiency and the tenants' solar, you can
Mhm.
raise the rents. And you can
Oh.
usually work it out where you get about 3 times as much benefit in rent than you paid. If you just look at it from an annual expense perspective, or however you want to look at it, there's about three
Mhm.
times as much benefits, at least in California. But
Mhm.
I've done the first zero energy projects in Nevada, Oregon, Michigan, um, New Mexico. I think I'm missing a state. So listen, there's been a bunch, and it's all affordable housing. People want to invest in solar energy efficiency because it raises rents, and that is the foundation of my consultancy. We've got about 15 staff now. We
Mhm.
developed a whole bunch of new electrification products like water heaters and space heaters and such to work for low income affordable housing, both retrofitting
Mhm.
it and building it new at a more cost effective way. So we're doing fine. Got 15 staff. I got a few acres, little farmland around here, up in a cool little coastal college town in California. So I'm a
Nice.
happy man. I think this is great.
Yeah. And so is that when you started Redwood Energy? Is that the consulting firm?
Yeah, 2011, having been laid off because of the Great Recession.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I remember that. I left LA and moved to Sacramento.
Yeah, I had like 6 job offers if I wanted to move to Sacramento, but I mean, I don't wanna commute. I have a home office and I walk outside and there's like a pond and birds and things. I'm an
Yeah.
environmentalist. This is where I wanna be. So yeah, I had to figure out, and I innovated back in the day, like all Skype office, now it's Zoom,
Mhm.
or whatever, Microsoft Teams, or go on the list. But at the time, it was unusual to just, we're gonna have a home office. I've got twins that are 2-year-olds, and I'm gonna be here because things are kind of rough around here. So
Yeah,
I had a
you got
home
big.
office and a consultancy, and supported a family life, and
Wow, terrible twos times two.
yeah, well, I have an ex also. She wasn't so easy. The kids,
Oh,
one of the
no.
kids, they yell at you only a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, I get it.
Anyway, I'm a big advocate for staying single.
Yeah,
Having
I'm
babies.
right there with single parent here from day one,
There you go. It's nice to have a little
fully.
autonomy. Good for
Yep,
you. Yep,
yes, and now he's 19 and doing well.
exactly.
I wanted to, like, do a little overview of, all electric homes, like, what are they and how are they actually different from a traditional over traditional systems?
Well, the first all-electric building code was in Berkeley in 1923. Not the one that we're thinking of in 2019 after, California is responding to both the Santa Rosa fire. My mother-in-law died in the Santa Rosa fire. Not the
Oh,
Paradise Fire. One of my neighbor's kids, she was there because she had to watch a whole bunch of people burn alive in their cars, and she wasn't
oh,
speaking yet. 6 months later, not talking, you know? As a little kid, it was my kid's best friend, the twins. So in that world, that's the one that we think of, the 2019 gas ban that I funded partly the lawyers. I initiated this process thinking like this is outrageous. The
mhm.
one before that was in Berkeley in 1923 after 50 city blocks burnt down and were fueled by gas. And the city of Berkeley then required that people build all electric more than 100 years ago now, and
Wow.
they had 30 amp households. Most houses in the United States are delivered 100 amps of power. So they
Mhm.
had 30 amp households, and they had transfer switches, like Frankenstein transfer switches that turn on different rooms and appliances. It's old school. Today
Yeah,
you can do a house on 30 amps today. You just have a computer that manages it all, not like
right.
actual transfer switches. um,
Yeah.
yeah, so it started then as a building code effort. After about 7 years, they started to allow buildings in Berkeley to build with gas again. But we again learned the lessons of horrific fires that are fueled by gas. Not only
Mhm.
the climate change that created the conditions, but I mean, like actively, when a house catches on fire and the gas appliances also catch on fire, there's an enormous amount more flames. And we
Right.
shut off gas infrastructure during big fires. We learned in California they don't have little like turn it off. They have to get a backhoe out, scrape all the dirt away, and then carefully pinch it physically closed while fusing on live gas, trying not to blow up. They did it in front of my house to shut off the gas. I was like, there are
Oh
6 of
my
you in this hole.
gosh.
So the movement towards all electric construction really
Mhm.
took off in the 50s when Westinghouse and GE were building nuclear power plants and getting paid to build nuclear bombs as well. And there's all kind of one nuclear thing. And they're trying to make clean energy. And so they started funding an all electric movement in the country. They had the #1 television show. They hired Ronald Reagan to be the host in the 1950s. Yeah, like
Wow.
Betty Garland was on that thing. Like everyone. Judy Garland, what am I saying?
Judy
Betty
Garland. I'm
White,
like, I
Judy
don't know
Garland.
Betty, but I know
Yeah,
Judy.
Judy, Betty, all of those nice 50s
Betty
names.
White.
Yes, yes, I mean, really, like, they had everyone who was a hit showed up to do cool little theater on Sunday nights live in front of the audience. It's like Sunday Night Live, but it was for theater, and there's a
Mhm.
General Electric theater, "Live better electrically." It was like this little logo thing, and they gave out Happy Meal stuff. I have, like,
Oh my
this is
goodness.
this, Total Electric Award, gold medallion home, "Live better electrically," and has this, like, sort of like nuclear family
Wow.
insignia surrounded by nuclear radioactive waves to sort of say, like, "This is how you do clean energy." And it's I mean, if you
Mhm.
go to Europe, they're pretty serious about it. Like,
Yeah,
you
they
know,
are.
30% or so of their energy is coming out of nuclear power plants. That's Japan too.
So,
And that's
let's get back to like
sorry.
traditional systems, like you said, like with the Paradise fires and the Santa Rosa fires. I mean, they
Yeah.
had all this gas that's obviously combustible.
Yeah.
So, an all electrical house or apartment building, do you think that obviously the damage would be less? But
Yeah.
how does that compare with traditional systems? Having an all electrification on your residences.
Well, I think people have to flip the way they think about a house for a second because every appliance is an electric appliance first. There's a gas
Right.
ignition on your water heater. There's a gas ignition on your stove. The whole house gets electrified first. Every appliance gets outlets next to it, no matter if
Mhm,
it's a gas or electric appliance. It's first all electric. Then
mhm,
you add more expensive gas infrastructure and you buy a slightly more expensive appliance. Every gas appliance is a little bit more expensive than its electric
mhm.
alternative, usually 100 or $200. And then you have to get rid of the gas combustion, which is a little more expensive also, putting in a pipe that can get rid of hot, dangerous fumes without burning
Mm,
anything else around it and without
right.
backflowing it into your house and poisoning you, like killing you, which happens every once in a while. Snow will build up on someone's exhaust vent, like some
Mhm.
skiing chalet, and a Hollywood star and her whole family will die. This real story, like
Yeah,
the actress from Scream 3. They all went to the
yeah.
hospital with carbon monoxide poisoning. So anyway,
Mhm,
the traditional building, you start with electricity, then you add gas, and you decide if you're going to do that or not. And, in 2017, when Santa
mhm.
Rosa caught on fire,
Right.
1% of the construction in California was built all electric, and 77% of construction in Florida was built all electric. It's now 2025, and we have 80% of construction in California being built all electric in response to some amazingly horrific fires that have
Yeah.
clearly illustrated for us what the future looks like if we don't
Mhm,
stop. As the nation's largest consumer of natural gas, that's California, with the
mhm.
number one number of hookups and the number one per capita consumption. Like, California is being delivered gas literally from Canada, physically from Pennsylvania. Gas comes all the way across the country,
Oh.
California to LA specifically. So it's like there's a lot of expensive infrastructure that's been built to add
Mhm,
gas to buildings that are already built with electricity and are cheaper to build that way. That's why Florida and other Southeast states build disproportionately all electric, 60, 70,
mhm,
80% without any
mhm.
fires to convince them. It's just because it's cheaper.
Oh, my goodness, it's just ugh.
Ugh.
So, what do
Yeah,
you think?
the only way to
I
get rid
mean
of the ugh is to do something,
I
It's
mean,
like
plus, I
build
mean,
better.
all those trucks that are bringing the gas here, they're already burning gas to get it
Yeah.
here,
The
right?
pipelines are delivering it. Trains
Pipeline.
are delivering oil. The
Ugh,
large barges are delivering oil as well. We are also drilling in Los Angeles itself. There's oil
right.
wells that contaminate little people's home, the kids' homes. I know someone who,
Mhm.
like, personally was given cancer because
Ugh,
she had a natural gas well, like, right there next to their apartment building, and it was so intense. So anyway, we could go down the list. Yeah, there's a lot of bad things about the gas, but the
mhm.
good thing is that it's cheaper to build all electric. I mean, for
Yeah.
everyone who's listening here, 95% of development in our country is built by developers. Like, all of our houses, all of our
Mhm.
buildings, more than 95% is built by as a for-profit business. And it's just
Yes.
cheaper to build all electric. End of conversation. That's just true.
Yeah. I mean, if I could invest, $5 million into a property, but get like $10 million worth of value because I'm using all electricity, I mean, that's the
But
bottom line,
let
right?
me, let me give you I was just on a phone call with a company that owns 15,000 apartments. And we're talking
Mhm,
about this 400 unit development that I'm going to the ribbon cutting on next week. And they were asking me about what was the value of this solar array up on the roof. Like, they didn't know about it. I've been working on
mhm.
it. Like, I've been giving birth to a baby. That's a project for the last 3 years. And I'm handing it over to someone else to raise the baby. And they're like, we're the new foster parents. What is the solar array about? I'm like, what the solar array is about is that this development was at the very edge of being able to be built until we figured out that if we put a solar array on there, that we could raise the rents while lowering utility bills dollar for dollar, and that would raise them about $1.5 million more money than it cost
Mhm.
them to put in the solar
Wow.
array. That allowed them to be just over the edge of profitability. And I was explaining, like,
Mhm.
this is how this development got built. It was the last
Mhm.
gap funding was squeezing out the high utility costs in California and turning that into higher rent and reducing the utility bill without the
Mhm.
tenants feeling any different in their monthly expenses, except that everyone likes to have a solar array. Everyone.
Right.
Every
Right.
tenant thinks that's a good idea. They like it.
Well, yeah. So, what do you think the benefits of electrification are for like health, safety, climate, and can you include some examples from your projects?
Yeah, this really great development I'm supporting in Washington D.C. is being built right now on the Beltway, and it's going to have a 12-story tall solar wall. When I was working with the developer, gosh, like 8 years ago now, um, we were trying to decide. I was trying to convince him to go all electric, and I was
Mhm.
bringing up this issue of how we should be considering induction stoves specifically.
Right.
And as I was relaying, like the dangers of what happens when a gas stove or an electric resistant stove gets a pan going hotter than say 600 degrees, it starts burning the
Mhm.
plastic layer that we call Teflon. That's just plastic.
Right. Right.
It burns it and it turns it into dioxin-rich black smoke. And so his cousin, because it's a family development
Mhm.
business, own a bunch of apartment complexes, his cousin is the site manager, family business. And
Mhm.
2 times in a row, he ran into a senior citizen's apartment who had left the pan on the stove, and the smoke was in the room. And now he had
Oh.
permanent, permanent lung damage from inhaling the smoke twice. Because so frequently, the first responder in an apartment complex is the site manager or the
Mhm.
neighbors, but no one's coming in with a gas mask. And so the amount of danger that's introduced, particularly into senior housing, that's one of the
Mhm.
number one places we see people are trying to convert because electric resistance can also burn a pan. But
Right.
induction, it has computers inside that control runaway heating. And so the pan doesn't get hotter than, say, 450 to 550 below the temperature of a plastic layer like Teflon burning.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that convinced him, like that when he realized how dangerous it was for his cousin, what had happened to his family member, he helped switch the whole development to being all electric just on the basis of that story.
Of health. Yeah. That
Yeah, I
makes
mean, it's
total sense.
dangerous. But then in California, we have earthquakes. And really, there's earthquakes all over the country if you pay attention. Like
Right.
every once in a while, there's a big one in Texas, there's a big one in North Carolina,
Mhm.
but we have a lot of them here on the West Coast, right? And
Yes.
so we've studied this ever since the 1906 earthquake in San Francisco. There's been an
Mhm.
earthquake every 10 to 15 years, right?
Mhm.
And they study this, and half the fires are from gas. Just that. If the gas was not in these buildings, we would not have emergency responders running around putting out gigantic fires when there's other legitimate non gas emergencies going on. It
Mhm.
doubled the number of fires that they had to deal with after every single earthquake to have gas. Of course, every building
Wow.
already has electricity. It's not an option, right? Every building gets built with electricity. Every appliance runs on it. So it's just this question of like, do you want to double the risk to your building
Mhm.
of a fire? And if you
Yeah.
have 20 and 30 and 100 apartments, you start seeing how the risk becomes almost inevitable. Like
Yes.
someone's going to have a dangerous fire at that number of households you're managing. And if you're managing 10,000 units or 20,000 units,
Mhm.
and you have insurance policies and actual fires and health claims being filed
Ugh.
against you because of the fires, as a real example, one of the first projects I did had propane, and they burnt one of the 4 buildings down up there in the mountains nearby where I worked on it. This is back in 2005 before I'd figured out how to do all electric construction. And so they built
Mhm.
it back all electric because just that. They didn't want to burn it down again.
So it's not just about like, being safe in your home, but it's also relieving some of our emergency services
Yeah,
of being able to help people that are actually in need and not having to put out fires. And yes,
protect you're
no,
protecting your
I mean, I
asset.
was,
Like you
yeah.
have so many buildings you now own that
Mhm.
like one apartment that goes affects a whole bunch of apartments, and you might have people jumping
Mhm.
out windows, as tragically happens about once a year somewhere in the world. There's a real
Mhm.
apartment fire where you see horrible things happen. And it's frequently
Yeah.
because of the stove. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I don't like to cook.
Well, I have here my induction stove. Just to point out, this is where I make my hot cocoa every day here in my little
Oh my
home office
goodness.
situation, and it's on induction, and it's great. I just set it to 140 Fahrenheit, and it makes a perfect
Mm.
cup of hot cocoa.
That's awesome. So, I wanted to talk to like some cost because
Yeah.
obviously there's always a cost difference or cost consideration when we are looking to upgrade or update or even just switch completely over into a new realm of building. So, what are some upfront investments versus like a long-term savings for developers, you would say?
Well, building all electric saves costs. You
Hmm.
could look at there's multiple Trump towers in Florida that have been built all electric because they save costs. Even as he goes out and publicly claims that all electric construction is this or that or is going to cause cancer or something or other,
Hmm.
that's what he has been building historically.
Hmm.
So it is simply a cost savings. Any savvy developer understands that adding infrastructure adds delays, adds coordination, adds design costs, adds actual infrastructure costs. Once you actually build things, adds the appliance cost because the gas appliance produces something dangerous, combustion
Mhm,
fumes. If you
mhm.
inhale it, you will die. So
Okay.
you have to also invest in infrastructure to get combustion fumes out. So you
Mhm,
don't have to worry about with a heat pump, space heater, or water heater, or dryer. Like none of these things have combustion pollution to raise
mhm,
costs.
mhm,
But the cost increase you deal with is if you want to try to make your own solar energy. That's where you have to say, spend $10,000 an apartment for a zero net energy apartment.
mhm.
You might have a tax incentives that write that down to nothing. Many of my affordable housing developments pay kind of nothing at the end of the day.
Wow.
Um, but if you were a market rate developer, you'd have to choose between, 5, 10 grand of extra cost per apartment to try to do something significant to their utility bills.
Mhm,
And I think that's the main problem that market rate developers have that affordable housing developers don't have. In affordable
mhm.
housing, because rent is regulated to include a cost of utility bills, you already have it in the business design. Is that if I
Right.
get rid of utility bills, I can raise rent. Yes, now I'm in business, the business of raising rent. But in market rate housing, the regulations are not there or they're weird.
Mhm,
And so it's harder to understand how to raise rent by $100 when you invested the equivalent of $30 a month of cost into
mm.
the solar array per month.
Right.
It's how I do it every day in affordable housing, but market rate people, you have to like talk them through it and they have to decide if it's actually, can I really get that rent? Affordable
Mhm.
housing, yeah, you can get that rent. People want that lower rent. Market rate housing,
Yeah.
you're just trying to figure out what the market will support.
Mhm.
But that additional cost has been proven time and again that tenants love solar. Just like people who buy homes, the value of a solar array maintains its value better than a marble countertop.
Mhm.
Like it is pretty much right at 100% of its rated value.
Mhm.
Whereas so many things that you invest in a single family house are somewhere between 30 to 60% payback if you're like flipping a house. Solar array
Mhm.
is one of the most dependable things you can invest in at the house level. And it's also true for apartments. People want solar power in apartments. They kind of feel like it's a dignified way to live and they deserve
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
like a normal person who lives in a house, you know?
Yeah,
And so it makes your
and they're
apartment more
being
attractive.
environmentally friendly too.
Yeah. Or, they just like, I don't know how many people in this country are environmentally friendly when it comes down to whether or not they'll pay more money for it. But I do know
Yeah.
that people like solar arrays, which pay for their
Mhm.
bills, whether it's like
Yeah.
environmentally friendly or not. They like the money. Um,
Mhm.
yeah,
I
that's
mean, who doesn't?
yeah. So
So
you're
it
a
doesn't
developer, you like
sound.
the rent.
Yeah, right? It's just kind of like, where do you want to invest your money in, right? So, I mean, it sounds like it's not that much of a difference in investing in solar array or making buildings electrified. Electrified? I guess
Yeah,
that's the
I
correct
mean,
word.
it made a difference, say 15 years ago, to add a solar array when solar costs were about 8 times what they are today. When I
Hmm.
was starting my first solar projects on apartments in 2005, the cost of the solar panels was $5 a watt to purchase a panel, and it is now somewhere between 20 cents and 80 cents a watt. So it's like 90% less sometimes. So
Yeah.
now, when solar is the cheapest way to have energy, it's a different
Mm,
conversation. Similarly, say 10 years ago, where in California, where I am, where there's only 1% all electric construction, and people didn't even think it was a good idea.
right.
It was very expensive and difficult to get people on board. Now,
Mm-hmm.
where it's essentially the code and all the PG and all the incentives line up, and there's tax credits still for some of it and such. It's like putting on skis at the top of the hill. Like you're gonna go downhill on this one. Like you're going all electric. It's just like no one's dragging you back up the hill for gas. You're going downhill.
So talking about like policies, how are the policy and code changes are accelerating the transition to gas-free buildings, or are they being accelerated?
They are being accelerated. I think the biggest one for developers is the lack of line extension credits. What I mean is that when you build a new project, you're going to build almost likely new electrical and new gas infrastructure to it, like right because there's a
Mm-hmm.
big vacant land, and now you've got the equivalent of 10 city blocks of people living there.
Mm-hmm.
So new infrastructure is usually paid for in part with a loan, where the utility will pay for your gas and your electric infrastructure and essentially charge your tenants back on their bills,
Right.
or charge everyone on their
Mm-hmm.
bills. It becomes a societal cost, but they don't charge you up front. California changed that. Massachusetts has changed that. New York is changing that, where now if you're putting in gas, they're not going to give you a loan. You have to put that in upfront yourself. They'll still give you a loan for
Oh.
the electricity, but you're going to pay now. You're going to pay, not society, not everybody else. You're going
Mm-hmm.
to pay.
Mm-hmm.
That has probably been the number one policy change in California. But they've also changed the building code to favor all electric construction.
Mm-hmm.
And when Nan died, my mother-in-law died, right,
Oh.
2017. It was a miserable death. She spent many months in the hospital, died 3 times,
Mhm.
right? Like
Oh
the
my
whole
goodness.
paddles bring you back. You get to discuss whether or not you lived or did you see your own ghost or not? Except
Mhm.
she had tubes in every single orifice. She couldn't talk the entire time. She died
Oh,
slowly from her smoke inhalation damage.
poor
So
thing.
that and the Paradise Fire the next year, which killed more than 70 people in flames, right? And burnt a whole town down. Like a place that used to live is now like just ashes.
Mhm.
That meant that when 2019 the Berkeley gas ban and it stood up, like it seemed like it was working. There
Mhm.
was more than 80 cities that passed them in California. And then we started seeing Washington State, Seattle had passed them. Washington State has a kind of a law that supports it's Colorado and Denver and Boulder and New York. And it started it becoming a national trend. We
Mhm.
had it stop as regulations in California when a subset of the appeals court said that it was too similar to a federal law that says you can't, as a state, regulate the energy efficiency. And these judges said banning gas piping to your house is similar enough to regulating the energy efficiency of a gas water heater that we won't let it stand. But a court
Huh.
over on the East Coast, another appeals court, said those are not the same thing. Go for it.
Mhm.
Massachusetts, have fun. Massachusetts had passed a law, and 10 cities had passed their gas bans, and they're still there. So New York has passed their local law 97, 96.
Mhm.
In New
Mhm.
York, the state of New York also has laws that have passed. So New York,
Y-
as an example, and California were both states that had only 7 to 8% all electric construction. Right? I need to emphasize Florida is at 77%, Hawaii is at 72%. Like these are extremes on the other end. New York and California are where a lot of people live, unfortunately, not so much
Mhm.
Hawaii. So,
Right.
as these largely populous, powerful states have made moving the Titanic around the iceberg policies to try to, shift at least their impact on natural gas consumption, it is definitely changed the whole nation. Because
Mhm.
starting in 2022, for the first time in our country, heat pumps, which are basically a fan in a box, it's a reversible air conditioner, heat
Mhm.
pumps finally started outselling gas furnaces. And that became true in the United States and has become even more true every year. It's also
Mhm.
become true in the whole world starting around 2021, where our whole planet, as of how do we consume new heating products, has been
Mhm.
shifting dramatically towards electrification. And it's not even
Mhm.
California gets credit. Amsterdam banned
Right.
gas in new construction in 2016. Berkeley got around to it in 2019.
It
It's already
seems like,
been done in all sorts of European countries thoroughly in the
yeah.
2020s. Early, like we're not leading per se. We're just on board with the movement.
Yeah, it seems like policies change faster after a disaster. They're
Yeah,
not they're not what's the word I'm looking for?
you're supposed to take advantage of a crisis, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
before Nan died, I had a gas stove in my house that she'd helped me install.
Mhm.
After Nan died, I physically dragged it out of the house and damaged the door frame with tears in my
Oh,
eyes because it was just such an incredibly upsetting thing. And so,
yeah,
and ever
I get
since I've been
it.
cooking on induction. Yeah, a
Mhm.
crisis changes people's behavior. After
Mhm.
about 6 months after she died, I decided it was time to start investing money in lawyers, something I'd never done before. I don't want to have an argument in a court. I got things to do. But
Yeah,
yeah, hired lawyers to see how we would ban gas. It was because it was a crisis. People dying in
wow.
flames is something that governments are supposed to prevent. I don't know what governments are for if they don't stop you from dying in flames. You got another thing on the short list, than that one?
I could probably name a few.
Yeah,
Um,
murder.
I don't know what you're talking about. Um, what advice do you have for developers that are interested in it and electrifying their homes? Like, where do they start, and what are the common pitfalls?
Well, the thing to start with is just to understand that the building that you're building now is an all electric building, and all you're doing is making a headache for yourself by adding gas appliances and gas infrastructure to it. As soon as you sort of
Mhm,
flip the way you think of it, you go, oh, then then you can go, okay, so what are the cheaper, easier things to install? Those heat pumps.
mhm,
And the I think the least well understood one is heat pump water heaters that are central for a whole apartment building.
mhm.
And 10 years ago, when I did my first project, it was kind of a failure and it took like 2 years to fix. The
Oh,
second one I did that were big central ones in like 2016, those were also kind of failures and it took a couple of years to fix.
mhm,
The ones that have been installed since 2019 in California are almost universally successes, where the engineers have figured out how to size them, and we've gotten more and more products to be able to do it. I was on a meeting yesterday in which someone was startling me, an expert, with two new heat pump water heaters that were for big central apartment complexes and industrial uses. I was like, there's so many
yeah.
I can't keep up. I've written a book on them. I have like catalogs and lists, and I still didn't know. So it's pretty easy these days, is my point. If you're in a
Mhm,
very cold climate and you're trying to do an apartment complex, you might do Link by Watts, or you might do the Pyroclast by Nile, or you might do a
mhm,
Sanko 2, or a Mitsubishi Q, whatever it's called. Or like, there's so
mhm.
many of them now. H Tech has got one. Um, so
Okay.
that solving how to do central water heating, not using gas boilers, but instead of heat pump water heaters. And there's now like online sizing tools by Ecotope called the Eco Sizer. Like there's really no excuse. There was an
Mhm,
excuse 10 years ago to make mistakes. Now the tools, both the design tools and the products themselves, are available. And there might be
mhm,
less consultants that know how, but there's not none. There's
mhm,
definitely mechanical engineers in most states who've done all electric developments or done a lot of them. You know.
mhm. Wow. So what do you think the impact of electrification on future home valuations and resale? You get a developer, they do a couple hundred apartment buildings, they want to get out of it. How does it raise the valuation for that?
Well, it's really what is the insurance company sensitive to the increased fire risks from stoves? And so some
Oh.
insurance companies value the difference between a dangerous kitchen and a safe kitchen. And if they don't, then there's really not a whole lot of difference in the resale value. Like there is for solar, people want the solar race, but people mostly consider electric stoves to be fine. 61% of Americans cook on an electric stove today.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to shock anyone with your all electric kitchen. Um, the so it's really, I think, it does the insurance company recognize that you have a safer building, and if they do or if they don't, it depends on the resale value. And if you have a solar array on the roof, you can pretty easily demonstrate its financial value to someone who's purchasing it and say, your operating costs are going to be lower, Good on you. The value of this building is a little bit more, therefore. Good on me selling it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like, if a electrical panel short circuits and kind of blows up in that one little area, it's not really going to spread the damage to the rest of the house, right?
Right. There are
Yeah.
house fires that are caused by faulty electrical wiring every year, usually in older
Yes.
buildings,
Yes.
usually with overloaded appliances on circuits that are on older buildings because the circuits were 15 amp circuits in buildings before 1962 and they're 20 amp circuits now, so they're a third more power in them. So you can start fires with electricity, and that's the truth no matter if you have a gas using building or an electric using building. But
Right.
consider if you have a gas using building. So my sister-in-law and brother, they sold their condo in New York City about 3 months before the neighbor upstairs in the corner. He lit his gas stove in the morning and blew up his
Oh,
apartment, blew
oh
him
my
into a
gosh.
hospital, blew up, and everyone's water sprinklers turned on. The entire 4-story tall building, everyone's drywall and flooring is soaked. He's
Oh,
nearly dead. And he had a gas leak. The gas leak was from where the furnace had been taken out and a heat pump had been put in, and they hadn't capped the gas sufficiently. And then he had a gas
oh.
stove, open flame, and the two, gas plus gas, goes kaboom. If they'd not had gas in the building anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
that's how you have a safe building. And I can show this because New York City, they ran a competition for 120-volt stoves so they could electrify kitchens because there's a real fire risk there. You can look it up. People's apartments blow up and then they have terrible kids die, terrible things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So they had this competition. Copper, a stove that I adore. It's got a battery in it. You can plug it in anywhere. It's kind of expensive though. It's $6,000, but you can just plug it into any outlet in your house. And you know who's buying them in New York City? Condos. Because if you buy a condo and walk in and smell gas in the hallway, you
Yeah.
call up your local gas company, Con Ed. You know what they do? They shut off gas to the entire building, and you don't get your gas back for a half a year. And that's happening
What?
every 2 weeks. I mean, literally every 2 weeks in New York City, someone is complaining about a gas leak in the building and they're shutting off gas to the building. And
Oh
Copper
my.
gets a call saying, "Can we get 110 stoves stat, please? We're trying to get people to cook in this building. It's all electric, right? Electricity's still there. We just can't use the gas now."
Oh
So
my
that
gosh.
actual crisis that keeps on happening, that's getting copper great business, is a reality everywhere. It's true in Boston. It's true in Philadelphia. Like these older buildings, whatever, from
Mm-hmm.
the 60s, the 40s, the 10s. There's lots of them, and
Mm-hmm.
if they have a gas leak, it is a real danger. And when someone's like, "I have a real danger in my place," they come back and they give you a real response of shutting it down. So I think actually one of the values
Yeah.
if you're an investor or developer is that you get to maintain a habitable residence. If
Yeah.
you're building a condo development, you can promise people that there is not going to be a gas explosion like there was down the block.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. So you have an involvement with zero carbon retreats
Yeah,
and educational initiatives like Passive House 101. Can you
yeah.
talk about that a little bit? What is that?
Well, I was a high school science teacher, right? That was my goal and ambition. So I do things like this multiple times a week. I spoke with a synagogue group of Jewish leaders about how they could do electrification of their campuses yesterday morning. Today, we're talking together. Um, the zero carbon retreat, at the time called Zero Net Energy Retreat, in 2016, there was no building science conferences held in the nation that didn't advertise for gas. Every single one of them was taking a large amount of fossil fuel subsidy to help their conference go. And so they always
Mm-hmm.
put the gas people on the main stage. They let them say things that were definitely not true about gas being clean or not a carbon change chemical or being a necessary component of a zero net energy house. Why would you want to put so much solar on when you could put gas there? Just saying some really crazy stuff and sometimes just flat out lies.
Oh
Let's just be
no.
honest about how long the fossil fuel industry has been funding propaganda, misinformation, and tobacco science and the rest of it. So I was encountering some of it face to face, people
Mm-hmm.
falsifying their data. So, and actually, I need to tell this funny story. Ha ha, funny story. I'm at the ACEEE summer study, the only peer-reviewed summer study, only peer-reviewed building science conference that we have. It's at a fancy place in Monterey. And the night before someone's going to speak, I'm told by a drunk building scientist on the bus with me. He's like, he knows I'm all about all electric, and he confesses to me guiltily that for someone, he won't tell me who,
Uh-huh.
someone at this conference, he falsified their graphs to eliminate building science, building electrification itself. You can't do that according to this graph, and he hid it. So I was like, wow, that's terrible. Thanks for confessing. But I didn't know who or what. The
Right.
next day, the morning keynote presentation that has literally standing room only, people are out of the room waiting to listen, the PG&E building scientist, and he puts a slide up that makes like my whole hair go like AC cold, because I can see what looks to be a pie graph that is carefully mislabeled something to look like building electrification. And his point is that there's no way to get to our 2050 goals. We've studied it all. It's technically infeasible. It's impossible. And I had to ask the question like, do you have building electrification on there? Because this is a building science conference. Like, there's
Hmm.
no reason to leave out building
Right.
electrification here for
Hmm.
us. And he denied it twice until he admitted it, that he was the scientist who, I mean, he didn't say, I asked Eric to falsify the
Right.
data. He admitted that they'd left building electrification out. So when you ask me, why did I throw my own conference? I needed a safe space. I needed one little tiny conference in the nation where we could stop lying to
Mhm.
each other and leaving things out and pretending that climate change wasn't real, or, gas was the
Mhm.
solution.
Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
God. So,
Wow.
so it was the first conference in the whole nation you could go to and learn how to build all
Mhm.
electric, like from a technical
Wow.
perspective. And
So
we've
I've
just kept
just
it going.
Nice. I just have one last question for you, and it involves like how can investors and developers collaborate with local utilities and government agencies to promote electrification? Would it be more towards like the safety, health, and well-being of potential tenants? Is it the money factor? It's like, what can we do to help them collaborate with these government agencies?
Oh, perhaps one of the hardest questions of all. I mean, developers generally don't want any rules or regulations that hold them back from doing anything that they want. They generally like to feel like they get to do exactly what they want. That's kind of their cowboy approach. So one of the things they actually want is money. And you ask,
Mhm.
like, well, but how much money? Well, we've done this
Mhm.
experiment in California. I can tell you that
Mhm.
$600 an apartment is not enough money. $5,000 an apartment is enough money to change someone's mind about whether or not they'll put in a gas water heater, or electric, heat pump, space heater. So that's that's the kind of thing that you need. Is you need multiple thousands of dollars per apartment if it's an apartment complex. And then the developers are happy to do what you're asking them to do. Or conversely, take away their loan to install
Ooh.
gas that everyone else has to pay back. And that also will change their behavior. They just don't want to pay 30 or $100,000 to deliver gas. Ah, fine, I'll just build all electric like everyone does in the South. You know,
Mhm.
4 in 10 residences in our country are built in the South, Florida, Alabama, those kinds
Mhm.
of places. Like
Right.
that's where houses are built. And they're built more than 50% all electric going back to the 1960s. It's just the cheap,
Mhm.
good way to do it. So if you're in a
Yeah.
gas using state where you have to convince a developer, you have to give them a few grand an apartment. If you are in a electric favoring state already, the Southeast, very little push is needed. They're already doing it. But
Wow.
push them a little harder.
Yeah. I know. Well, you know what they say, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, find someone who's lost their mother-in-law and they become a very squeaky wheel, an angry squeaky
Yeah.
wheel,
I'm so
and
sorry.
yeah, well, it's funny.
So
I tell the story because they asked me to. Her relatives, like, keep her alive, so to speak. And so when I go out there, I find people will be like, "Yeah, I lost my aunt in the mudslides after the
mm,
fires, and the mudslides come, and 20 something people died in mudslides just a year after my nan died." Geez, it's like, so it's not just me who's grieving. You go to people who in Aliso Canyon, where there's this underground storage tank of gas, and which is essentially a mountain filled with gas under pressure, leaks out, poisons 10,000 people. They're all like, puking and got blood coming out their nose. That's not cute.
No.
These are people who badly want to get off gas.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there's more and more allies everywhere.
yes, yes, I'm sure there is. And the more information that we have about the pros with
Yeah,
electrification, and of
cheaper.
course, there are a couple of cons, but there's very little, it seems to me.
Yeah, everything in life is some like weighing and evaluating. So if it's cheaper and faster to build all electric, and you have to learn a little bit, that's the pretty much the friction is that you might have to learn a new practice. Yeah, but
Hmm.
that's the business, right? We're in business to build cheaper and faster. So,
Yes.
be a good business person is what I'm saying.
Right? Yeah, I think everybody's learning how to be a better business person nowadays. Um, well, Sean, I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've really enjoyed listening and learning more about electrification and how we can save more lives by going towards electrification. And I really enjoyed having you on the show. And if you're an investor or a developer out there, if you want to reach out to Sean, we will put all the links down below. Subscribe to the podcast. We have, I think, 12 episodes now. We're still kind of new, but yeah, if you have any questions, please reach out to Sean. And again, thank you so much for joining us. We love to have you. And we will see you next time on the Home Expo podcast.
Thank you,
Bye.
Tammie. Thank you.